First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, thank you for joining us. I want to pull that up, though. That is a live shot from our Mount Hood ski bowl camera. Lots of fresh snow right there. I've seen some skiers and snowboarders go by. So good on them for being up there enjoying that right now. But again, we are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every weekday starting around 1 p.m. going throughout the afternoon. And you can find us live right here, whatever platform you're on. Thanks for doing so. But don't forget, we're also on our YouTube channel for Fox 12 Oregon. You can share the segments from there, kptv.com or the Fox 12 Now tab, or those Fox 12 Oregon apps, which are available on pretty much whatever device or platform you're using. Just look in your store and you'll find those. You know, though, if you watch this show regularly, that on Thursdays we are joined by the one and only Eric Goranson from Around the House Northwest. And I wanted to show that snow up there because, look, it's a new year. Happy New Year. Inevitably, the cold weather's going to be coming here for us. It's dipping even lower and lower. You can check out our weather report at kptv.com. But we know we're going to get something super cold at some point, and it's a good time now to start preparing your home for that ahead of time. Don't get caught when it's too late. And Eric's here to help us out with that. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Happy New Year, man. And this is a subject that it always seems to sneak up on us. You know, we talk about it in the fall. All right, let's get ready. And then around here in the Pacific Northwest, we might not see it for another 4 months. But that's how this rocks. But January and February typically are those coldest months for us, where those, Arctic fronts sneak in and everybody freezes pipes up and does damage to the house. And maybe 10 minutes could have stopped that from happening.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we've had that, a little bit warmer of weather here, and I think maybe I'm talking about myself. Maybe people got a little complacent and didn't think about that's a good time to do that. So it's still not too late. But Eric's like, what are some main things that people should be thinking about right now, just ahead of whatever cold weather will inevitably be coming?
The simplest one is walk around your house, and if you have a garden hose attached to the faucet, disconnect it now. And if you're going to use it, hook it up, disconnect it right afterwards. Because what happens is since the wall of your house has got a little bit of heat to it, that insulation's not perfect, you get out a couple feet away and it's the regular temperature out there. So you could have something where it's 29 degrees out and a frost-free faucet that's not supposed to freeze. All of a sudden that hose can freeze and the water's all the way back up in there and it'll break stuff when it shouldn't. So many times it's that darn garden hose that's still hooked up to the faucet will burn you every time on freezing the house pipes up early.
So even if you think that you've got one, that's supposed to be freeze proof or whatever, that doesn't matter if it's freezing from the hose all the way back up in.
Yeah, because you got water all the way in, so it's just going to freeze up. And how those frost-free one, I've got one here. Here is a frost-free hose. So this is your wall, right? Well, this is back in the wall, and this valve turns off up here inside the wall, so it's nice and warm. So for that, around here, most weather times, we don't even have to use, if you've got a newer house or a newer faucet, you don't really have to use these faucet covers anymore because it's 4 or 5 inches back in. If you're worried about it, go ahead. But a lot of the newer houses have those, hose bibs that are inside the wall, so they're plenty warm enough. It's the older houses where you've got the little faucet out there and it's got all the brass pieces out there and it's just like a little ball that's outside. That's the ones you got to worry about because that shuts off right outside. So if you could get down into the upper 20s and freeze that one up, and then you've got a problem once it thaws. You don't usually have a break when it's frozen up like that. It's that next day that it gets 40 that gets you into trouble, and then you're trying to figure out how to fix the pipes.
So that is a good suggestion right there. And, you brought up the pipes. I think I just want to ask this. I feel like one of the main things that happens when these cold streaks go through is that pipes freezing. They break in the basement. I mean, there's such a mess that comes along with that, getting that fixed. What are some of the main steps people can do now to try to avoid that from happening later on?
Yeah, first off, if you've got a crawl space underneath your house, many in our area do, make sure and put those covers over the crawl space right now when we're getting into this cold weather. As we're getting into that keeps that draft from coming down there, because even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s houses, they didn't really insulate any of the pipes in the crawl space. So they're all just underneath there. So you want to keep that draft out. So even though it's probably putting healthier air in their crawl space, plug up the stuff for a couple months here and get that taken care of so you don't have that cold air coming in there. And then second of all, like I said, disconnect the hose. And if you have any of those faucets, go ahead that are outside like that, make sure and cover them up, insulate them up if you have to. If you've got something out on a farm, they make plug-in hose wrap that you can put on that's got heat tape in it. That'll turn on when it's cold and turn off. That'll put heat to that. But really, knowing what kind of plumbing you have, if you've got that yellow plastic pipe in your house that's CPVC, that stuff will break just giving it a bad look. So that stuff in the wintertime is horrible and super brittle. So that stuff likes to eat, just bust up. If you've got newer plumbing, like you've got PEX or one of those things, you have a lot less chance of it breaking because that stuff actually will flex a little bit so it won't expand out and blow the pipe out.
All right, so good suggestions right there on how to avoid that from happening. What are some other big things that people should be paying attention to ahead of the cold weather to try to get ahead of any kind of issues?
On a sunny day, walk around and look underneath the door, look around the windows if you've got light coming in. And if it's not, just get out there with a flashlight, one person on the outside, one person on the inside. If you can see light coming through, usually under the door is like the biggest culprit. That sweep gets out of adjustment or the sill gets out of adjustment. And that's like having a window open. So you're letting a ton of air in right there. That's never a good one. If you've got that old fireplace that you're never using, make sure the damper's shut so you're keeping the heat inside the house. And if we're below freezing out there and you've got an older house, maybe not as good insulation, open up the cabinet doors under the sink, anywhere that you've got a faucet like that on an exterior wall. So bathrooms, those kind of things, that'll help. And if it gets really, really cold, letting those run just a little bit will keep that water moving. It's the stagnant water that likes to sit there and freeze. So if you've got a little bit moving, it's going to make it last a lot longer without it freezing. And then when in doubt, turn the heat up a little bit in the house. It's not great for your bill, but it's great for those pipes. And the extra $10 you might pay for a few days of keeping the house warmer will save you the $500 on the plumber's call to get out there.
Yeah, just to get out there probably at that point too, depending on how much is going on. So just leaving it running just like a slight amount. Are you talking like just a drip or have like a stream?
Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much, But the other thing is to make sure when you do that you don't have the stopper in the sink, because no need to be overflowing sinks and things like that in a kitchen or a bathroom. But really just watching that stuff right there. And when in doubt, put some extra insulation around those older house, pipes outside. Any of that stuff that's exposed outside could be a problem. So around here, most of the time in the Portland metro area, we don't see us like blown out sprinkler systems and things like that. But if you've got underground sprinklers and we're getting in the 20s, it might not be a bad idea to get an air compressor and carefully blow those out. Get the water out of it so you're not fixing those pipes in the spring as well with your sprinklers.
Yeah, always thinking about the problems that could happen down the line.
Absolutely.
It's worth doing it now. And plus you save money, which is always a good thing. Anything else that you think is really important for people to be thinking about?
Yeah, just make sure, with crawl spaces around here, most homes in our areas that were built before the 90s, there's no insulation in those crawl spaces. So that's one of those things that the floor is going to be a little bit cold, but if you've got those vents in, that's also going to let the heat go down there so you don't freeze those things up. So it's not a bad idea. If you're down there working on some other projects, throw some pipe insulation on the cold and the hot water pipes. If it's down in the crawl space while you're down there, it'll save you some money in the long run and reduces that chance of freezing up the pipes.
All of that saving money in the long run and reducing that freezing. Yeah, do it now. It's worth it. We're talking about it right now. You're watching this segment. This is the time to do it. Don't wait until it's too late.
All we have to have is Mark Nelson jump on and say, hey, we got snow or cold coming. And then you're going to go to the hardware store and they're all going to be gone. It's just gone. Yeah. So then you're trying to jump on Amazon and trying to get them shipped in or whatever, and go get your stuff now. And if you don't need it, you're just ahead for next year.
Yes. Anticipate that Mark Nelson is going to say that at some point over this winter. The chances are there. So do it ahead of time. Great advice. What about this week's episode of Around the House Northwest?
Oh man, we head back up to Hood River and go take a look at this super contemporary house that was actually built there in 2001. It looks like it was floating, and they remodeled it with a world-renowned architect and really did something cool with it. So you could be sitting in the backyard of this place, look straight out because the house is kind of floating above the yard. You could actually see out and see Mount Adams and stuff like that in the river from the backyard because you're looking under the house. Super cool, Whoa. Super trick, fun house to take a look at. That is kind of a unicorn up there because you don't think of Hood River in contemporary modern houses, and it's one that's been there since 2001 that they just reimagined. So really cool there. And then we go out to one of my favorite little places to go visit. And I go out and see my buddy Durr, who owns Love It Deconstruction. He has a shop in North Portland. They're the ones that when you see in Portland here, houses before 1940, they got to come in and deconstruct those by hand, literally taking it all apart by hand. You don't see the excavator come in and do that. So they take it back, clean up the wood, and reuse it, and they sell it back there with a bunch of other building materials. So it's like thrift store shopping for your house. Really cool there.
That's really interesting. Just thinking about how, they have to go out there and take it down, piece by piece. That's fascinating. And that's all on this week's episode, then both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we take a look at that, and then we get to actually sit down with the architect that designed that house up in Hood River as well. And it's a little confusing because me being Eric Goranson, he is Eric Sorensen. So kind of a fun one right there. So, we're close on the name there. So if you want something that could get slightly confusing with the names, it's going to be fun. And he's a brilliant architect. He actually has designed most of Nike's campuses around the world and started to get into residential stuff. So most of the name brand stuff you see in Portland, New York, and everywhere else in the world, he had a part in designing. And so he used that with this house, which is pretty cool.
That's really cool. And for people who want to catch this week's episode, what's the best place for them to do so?
All right, you can catch it. Brand new episode, of course, is 10 a.m. Fox 12 Plus on Saturday, and then 6 p.m. on Sunday. And then we rerun it the following Friday morning at 8:30. So if you missed last week's show, you can catch it tomorrow at 8:30 on Fox 12 Plus. And then, of course, we've got about 600 videos of all this stuff on YouTube as well.
Yep, lots of opportunities there to watch it. And then, head to the YouTube channel and 600 clips. Yeah, that'll keep you busy for a while if somebody's got some.
Take up a little time, Yeah. Cold winter day.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, Eric, thank you, as always, for joining us. I always appreciate having you on here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother. Thank you.
And same thing to everybody out there. So don't forget, all those places that we mentioned. You can find the Fox 12 Now segments and clips as well. So feel free to share those, take a look at them. And that is it for right now, though. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.